Christopher Hitchens is here. He is a contributing editor to Vanity Fair and a visiting professor at the New School. His books include Letters to a Young Contrarian and Why Orwell Matters. His new book is called God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything. I am pleased to have him back at this table. Welcome back.
Nice to be back.
All right, let me first talk about Iraq before we talk about God.
Okay.
Or the absence of God in your judgment.
Iraq is being destroyed by the parties of God. Iraqi society is being poisoned by theocracy and its killers and torturers. It's a good place to start. Why not?
Where do you think it's going to go? Where do you think it's going to end up?
And I might add that I have very little patience with people who say that the mass murder and slaughter and torture of Iraqis is all the fault of George Bush or Paul Bremer. They may have made a lot of blunders there, but the people who are doing the killing are the ones who should be blamed, and they do it in God's name, and they even kill their co-religionists over an insignificant
or destroy their own religious sites.
Yes, they blow up a mosque, which no secularist would ever, no atheist would ever allow. The desecration of a building, a religious building in that way. I mean, it horrifies me, and we have a natural resistance in ourselves to desecration, to profanity. To blow up a mosque, the Golden Dome at Samarra, one of the most beautiful buildings in the world, callously destroyed by people in the name of God. This is why I wanted
That was by Al-Qaeda, not so much Sunni Shia.
It's by Al-Qaeda.
It unleashed Sunni Shia because Al-Qaeda meant to do that.
Al-Qaeda is a Sunni gang backed by, including the person who committed that awful crime, a former member of Saddam Hussein's secret police, by the way, Ba'athist. But their aim is to start a Sunni Shia. So, well, that's how pitiless they are. That's how justified their faith-based politics make them.
Notwithstanding your own support in the beginning, notwithstanding the acknowledgement by lots of people, both who are like the president or don't like the president, all the mistakes, do you think it's going to end in defeat for the United States?
I do now think it is, because I think that it's become evident to a large number of people in the region that they only have to wait, that the United States is not going to stay. Even the president only talks about timetable for withdrawal now.
Petraeus has said there's a Washington clock which is running faster than the Baghdad clock.
Well, you don't have to have a very strong sense of history or timing, which in the region they do have a fairly strong sense of. Okay, this is a phase that will be over soon. Well, that means our friends are going to be gutted and slaughtered. The people who trusted us are going to be, they'll be lucky if they die quickly.
And so what does it do?
A country with more oil than Saudi Arabia or Iran will fall into the hands of the scum of the earth. I hope those who want to detach from it are going to be happy with what they get.
Okay, stop there. Some of that. First of all, you say it's a defeat for us, and what are the consequences?
It's not a defeat for us. It's a defeat for Iraqi and Kurdish society.
Because they suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
But are there consequences for the United States, in your judgment, or for the United States and Great Britain?
Yeah, living with the shame of betraying the democratic Iraqis and living with the hell that will overcome their society when the parties of God have their way, and living with the knowledge that the keystone state in the region, the one between the theocracy in Iran, the Shia theocracy, and the Sunni theocracy, the Wahhabi theocracy in Saudi Arabia, and a country, Iraq, that has more oil than either of them.
Well, does it have more oil?
We've done a lot of prospecting and exploring.
Who is we?
Our side.
Well,
I'm not ashamed to call it.
I don't mean that, but because I haven't seen it. General Petraeus on the show last week said that Iran, because of new discoveries, is now the second largest.
Iraq, you mean?
Iraq is now the second largest source of oil, not the first. You just said it'll have more oil than Iran and Saudi Arabia together.
I think it already had more than Saudi Arabia. But the discoveries are interesting. Are very interesting, too, because they're in the newest ones are in Al-Anbar province, the huge, thinly populated province that Al-Qaeda thinks it can take over, that extends between Baghdad and the border of Jordan. Now, that's which means that you could have a fair distribution of oil, because up till now, most of the oil has been in Shia or Kurdish areas. We've done a lot of prospecting and investigation. And now we're going to give all this away, this fantastic wealth, on a choke point of the Gulf in the world economy. We're going to give it away to the parties of God just to satisfy public opinion that's been conditioned for defeat. I mean, if the United States thinks it can live with a shame like that, it'll have to get ready to do so.
But how? Okay, two things. One, how will it affect our reputation and credibility in the rest of the world? Will we be said have? You don't want to be or go to war with the United States, or you don't want to be involved with the United States because in the end the pain will be too much and they will leave? Or
you could put it more
or will
shortly
it be
than that.
said the United States is a fool and they went to war on a mistaken assumption and they should never have gone in there, and look what it did, and they are not to be trusted?
You could, I could put it much more pungently than that. Not to say that you were verbose, but I mean, I think the short way of saying it is this. It will become evident that it's more dangerous in that region to be a friend of ours than to be an enemy. And that's a pretty final judgment, don't you?
You have no criticism of the Iraqis per se, because after the toppling of Saddam, their opportunity to change their own country. What we are missing now is a political solution.
Well, I'm a great friend of the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan and President Talabani's party.
Right.
And I was recently in those provinces of northern Iraq, Kurdistan. I was in Baghdad as well. I spent most of my time in the north, where they've done everything we could have asked of them. There are no American or British soldiers there. They don't need them. There hasn't been a car bomb or an attack of that sort since 2004.
But clearly Kurdistan was not what Baghdad was.
No, but it used to be the most tribal, the most backward, the most primitive, mountainous part of the country. The Kurds used to kill each other, but for tribal reasons, not religious. One thing they don't do, they don't have mullahs there in a big way. Everyone's a Muslim, Sunni Muslim actually, but the imams don't rule. Women go to school and no one wears a veil, that sort of thing. But that's fairly recent too. They've solved their own problems. The internecine ones, they don't shoot each other anymore. They've acted in an exemplary manner. So much so that we don't even notice them. And none of our people has ever been killed there, and they're building a memorial for the American soldiers who've been killed elsewhere. And it's just openly, callously said by the majority leader of the United States Senate, never mind, we just want out. We just want out. The hell with them. Let them hang. We've betrayed the Kurds, 3-4 times before, ever since Kissinger. Now, without conscience, planning to do it again. I just say for shame, Charlie. I just do. I'm not going to let it happen. I'm making a huge row, and I hope you'll join me on this point.
On which point? To support the Kurds?
We cannot abandon the nascent democracy that we have certainly helped to come to
in Kurdistan.
1/5 of the country, yes. We can still hold that up as an example. We can say to the other Iraqis, you're free to follow this example if you like, or you can go with God is great, and you'll see what will happen. The Talibanization of what was once a civilized country.
Talibanization. Will Iraq, in your judgment, become a failed state?
Well, I have to say that in some ways it's always met that definition, in that it's a somewhat confected country created by Winston Churchill in not his finest moment and cobbled together a bit.
Right.
It's almost,
but that's not what we mean by failed state. By failed state, we need a place where there's no central authority and people like Al-Qaeda can, in a sense,
if you mean
live and find a haven.
A failed state on the order of Somalia, say, yes, it could become that, is becoming that now. And in
the middle of the Middle East, bordering with Iran and
that if we can't.
Syria and Jordan.
Yes. So it could be a Rwanda on the Gulf or a Somalia on the Gulf. That's not just a failed state in its own terms. It's a huge civilizational failure that for us to allow this to happen to a keystone country in society. We shouldn't even be considering it. But in fact, people can't wait for it to happen fast enough.
Why do you think you've been so unsuccessful in being able to convince your intellectual friends to come to the side you're on?
Oh, Charlie. I think for this reason, everything that went wrong or has gone wrong, is indeed going wrong in Iraq, is, in my opinion, the result of having postponed the intervention for so long. If Saddam Hussein had been taken out in 1991, we would still be complaining about the losses we took and the chaos that was caused by it, but we would not realize what we'd saved ourselves from. We wouldn't realize that means Iraq doesn't go through the next 10 years of sanctions and misery and social implosion, civil war, disintegration, all of this, from which we may not now be able to rescue it. But we could not ignore our responsibility. Iraq is a major American responsibility. We've acquired major responsibilities and debts there. We've made major promises, created major messes that it's partly our responsibility to clean up. Intellectuals, I think, perhaps aren't that keen on that argument. They basically wish that they never had to hear about the place. Come on. I mean, that's what most people wish. Couldn't we have skipped this whole thing? Answer no. have to face it.
Which goes to the core of your belief that America should use its power to knock off bad regimes wherever they see them.
Yes, because our existence is incompatible with theirs. Not on a moral crusade, so to say.
At some point, they will overtake us.
We've always found out that in the end, we cannot coexist with psychopathic, aggressive, expansionist, totalitarian regimes. We've usually waited to see if we could do this with anything short of war, and it's got worse because it's been postponed.
So whether it's Nazism or communism, in the end, you have to
And if we'd done this to Saddam Hussein in 1991, we would be living in a better world. We just wouldn't know it because we wouldn't know how much worse it would have been putting it off.
But did you think Saddam Hussein per se was a threat? Or just simply was a guy who was on a human rights record? Was a tyrant and deserved to be overthrown because he engaged in his own version of genocide.
Well, the case for that would be complete on its own terms. For any country that had signed, as we have done, the Genocide Convention, which mandates intervention either to prevent or punish genocide, that would be complete on its own terms. But he'd invaded two of his neighbors. One of them not even invaded, had occupied, taken over, annexed.
Kuwait, and it was kicked out of Kuwait. And Iran, and that war was over. That war was over, and he was in a weakened state.
Restless pursuit of programs of weapons of mass destruction, and a detail often overlooked, the personal paymaster and armorer of the suicide bombers among the Palestinians.
Well, he gave gifts of $25,000 to families of suicide bombers.
Undermining the al-Fatah PLO leadership, supporting everywhere he could the most extreme jihadists and fundamentalists.